Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Módulo Músicos Unidos. Once again, my name is Max, founder of MMP Global Music. You can certainly visit our website at mmpglobalmusic.com. All of the information is available in Spanish, and there's an option for English. Be sure to look us up at your favorite podcast platform. You spell Módulo Músicos Unidos as MODULO. M as in Mary, U as in umbrella, N-I, and then the number 2. All right. And favorite podcast platform, that is Soundcloud, iHeart Radio, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher for Androids. We have a YouTube channel as well. You can feel free to subscribe as well. We are available, of course, on Spotify and a Tune Radio application. All right, TuneIn Radio. All right, be sure also to take a look at our affiliated partner, Soundtrack Your Brand, okay, which provides background music for businesses. Okay, it's very important that us producers, musicians, artists, make sure that we get paid for the use of music. All right, so in this episode, we're going to talk about several topics that has been rising as years go by. And, we've been speaking about this for several years now. All right, so there's a lot of information as of recent, a lot of lawsuits that are being filed right now. And these are artists, okay, composers that are seeking ownership of their music, okay. All right, so we're going to talk about Sony and Universal, okay, as they face lawsuits from artists. It's very interesting. There was an article published at Pitchfork, all right, and the labels are ignoring a rule allowing artists to gain ownership of their work after 35 years, okay, which is a very important rule under the Copyright Act of 1976. So Sony Music Entertainment and Universal Music are facing new class action copyright infringement lawsuits filed by artists seeking ownership of their music. The lawsuits against two labels viewed by Pitchfork were filed February 5th by the New York Dolls, David Johansen, John Waite, Southside Johnny, The Nerves, Paul Collins, and Joe Eli. All right, the lawsuits cite Section 203 of the Copyright Act of 1976, which gives recording artists the opportunity to terminate grants of copyright ownership 35 years a recording's initial release. While the Copyright Act provides, authors, composers, songwriters a second chance of those sound recordings in particular, those who have attempted to avail themselves of this important protection have encountered not only resistance from many record labels, they have been subject to the stubborn and unfounded disregard of their rights under the law, and in many instances, willful copyright infringement. The class action lawsuits asserts that hundreds of musicians have served notices of termination to Sony and Universal, while the labels have routinely and systematically refused to honor them. All right, so they seek damages for copyright infringement and declaratory relief. Okay, so this is the current situation here with lawsuits filed against Sony and Universal. All right, so there's a quote from attorneys: "This behavior must stop." Okay, that's according to attorney Evan Cohen. Okay, stated it, the following, quote, "The legal issues in these class action suits have never been decided by a court and are of paramount importance to the music industry," end quote. The named plaintiffs in the Universal Music Group case are John Waite, a solo artist and a former lead singer of the 1970s group The Babies, and Joe Eli, who has recorded 18 solo albums, okay, and also was a performer on works by The Clash and Rosie Flores, In the Sony case, David Johansen of the New York Dolls, John Lyon, known as Southside Johnny, and Paul Collins of The Beat are hoping to lead the charge. So all of these cases are unfolding as we speak at this point. So this is a reality. Okay, it's something that it's not impossible. Okay, you just need the right team on your side. Okay, to be able to work through this process, you would need, of course, an attorney, and you also would need, a publisher on your side as well. Once those rights are obtained from the labels, then you would need, of course, the proper administration to be able to, continue those rights going forward. Okay, which, there's a lot of paperwork involved and procedures that needs to be followed afterwards. Even though the labels, they are aware of this, protection that songwriters have and protection that artists have, okay, they seem to just kind of ignore, the situation. They, as they continue to ignore and dismiss these notices that they receive. Why? All right, because there's a procedure that needs to be followed, and this is precisely what they're looking for. They're looking for a lawsuit, okay, so that they can pave their way out of it. Okay, so they have, they have several points on their end that, as an attorney, there's a lot of points, defense mechanisms that they can use to avoid all of these termination notices, if you will. They can at times come into an agreement as well. That's only if the artist, songwriters, composers, authors accept, okay, which I doubt, because in a sense, then you are giving up your rights for eternity. So whomever is seeking for those rights, of course, would like to have the privilege to own their own rights. Some do take advantage, some don't. Now, if this particular protection, it's not executed the right way, then unfortunately, there isn't any other way that the rights can be obtained, okay, that the rights can be, once again, in your possession. During this entire process, there's a very important event that needs to take place, okay, and that is the serving of these notices, okay. Those are very key, okay, into obtaining those rights. Okay, so if you are an artist, okay, out there that has recorded, music, even it doesn't matter what music, it could be hip hop, rap, whatever it is. Okay, if you were under a label at some point in time, let's say from 1978 going forward, okay, you do have the rights to regain your masters, okay? And let me just point out why that's important. In this day and age, the independent industry is growing, okay? So that's not a secret. There's a lot more of independent artists that, produce and write their own music and, utilize independent, distribution companies that can get their company out there to all the digital platforms, okay, which is great. So that means that you write your own music and you produce your own music and you're, the owner of your rights. And you have a company that represents your rights, which it's totally fine. And that's why we came into the game as well as M&P Global Music to be able to manage those rights, okay, manage the publishing, okay, also administer the intellectual property and regain those rights for those artists that has been, in the game for so long. Okay, so that's, mainly the reason why we came into the mix, okay, to be able to provide independent label services for those independent artists. So independent artists needs this administration to be able to collect all of the money that's available to them, okay, or that belongs to them based on their rights. All right, so that's an example of, how it works in this day and age. But back then, let's say 1960, 1970, 1980, okay, the labels controlled the game. All right, so that means anything that was, that was put out there, an album that was recorded and it was put out to the world, it was distributed to the world, those rights belong to the labels, okay? And the artists, songwriters did not have any control of it, all right? But now, there's a second chance to that for those, who are seeking, their rights back. And the reason why it is important is if an artist recorded, let's say, 2 albums, okay, and it's currently owned by the labels. Currently, the labels right now are making money off of that still. They're exploiting those sound recordings, okay? And that means in all digital platforms, in YouTube, anywhere the music is played, okay? Wherever the music is played, okay, that means that there's a consumer, all right, and there's a royalty, if you will, made off of that sound recording. So what would be the difference if, let's say, the artist regained control of those 2 albums in this day and age? It means that you have control, okay, and in a sense, you're able to put this in, these albums out for streaming, for sale. You can do so many things, and those royalties, that income will belong directly to you and not to the label. If everything's left as it is, the labels are certainly taking advantage in every single way. All right, so if you are an artist that have recorded under a label, as of 1978 going forward, okay, you do have those options. Okay, we're open, to receive any feedback or any concerns or anything that you'd like to follow up. We're more than happy to, provide information to get you on your way. Okay, it is a very long process, but again, as long as you have the right team on your side, you're able to get through all this procedure in your favor. There's a very important case as well unfolding right now, and that is Kanye West is suing Universal, Emmy over record contracts and the publishing. Now, in his particular case, okay, there was lawsuits filed. The nature of what he's looking for, it's unclear, but it appears to be that Kanye West is seeking for both unspecified monetary damages from the record labels as well as transfer of property. Now, the only difference is Kanye West recorded under a label contract, okay? So he is under the label, and in a sense, he wants to buy out his publishing, okay? He wants to be in control of all his work, okay? But due to the nature of these contracts under the labels, he cannot buy his own publishing. Okay, that's insane, but that's how labels work. They put in so much money on, marketing, on promotion, on, radio, on television, on ads, on billboards, on, you name it. Okay, so they want to make sure that they can make, all the money out of it. And Kanye West is looking to buy out his own rights, and he was just strictly denied an amount of $8 to $9 million, which he does have to buy out the publishing rights, but the labels are denying it. The labels are pretty much in control, for the next 35 years. Okay, so it's going to be very tough for him to regain that in front of the judge. Okay, so the advantage in Kanye West's case may be towards the labels in this case. We're always open for feedback, comments. You can also visit our webpage at mmpglobalmusic.com. All right, we have all the information in English and in Spanish. This podcast goes by the name of Módulo Músicos Unidos. You spell it as MODULO MUNI and then the number 2. Once again, my name is Max. Thank you for tuning in today.